So I've been contemplating over the last day or so, since Dragon Age the Veilguard has come out, and since a lot of the criticism has come out about it, and since the absolute terrible dialogue that is within this game, and the many clips that have circulated around the internet have come out about how I was going to make a video about this, and if I was going to make a video about Dragon Age the Veilguard altogether. And after contemplating for a long time, for like a day or so, I've finally come to how I want to talk about it, because I could easily just stand here and completely rip on the game, which I'm going to do, obviously. I mean, that's what I like to do a lot of the times. Whenever I see something bad, what I like to do is to rip on it. But what I want to do as well is really compare of just how bad the writing really is in Dragon Age the Veilguard, and show you in this video as well of comparisons not just from the past BioWare but also from modern day games as well specifically one game, about how Dragon Age really has fumbled. And it's not just the topics that they're talking about in their game, it's how they're talking about it. To get into the video properly, Dragon Age the Veilguard came out a couple days ago, and it has been received from the audience, because we don't really care too much about what these gaming journalists have to say and what critics have to say. To me, a lot of times, I don't even like to look at their reviews. As a matter of fact, I like to look at them and just laugh at them. I like to look at what the audience has to say. And the audience, when it comes to Dragon Age the Veilguard, has been relatively mixed, because on forefront, the game actually is not too bad. It's actually kind of fun at times. But the one main criticism that everyone has for the game, that everyone is 100% agreeing on, is that the dialogue within this game is some of the worst dialogue that has ever been put out in any video game history. Without a doubt. For some great examples, the ones that have been extremely popular, that have been going around the internet, which I'm going to show a couple of them now, is this first one here, is of where a character misgenders someone. It doesn't call them by they, them, but calls them she. And they make this like such a big deal that they decide to do some push-ups to punish themselves for the way that they misgendered this person.
Pounding that snake's nose, she's still holding the ruby in her other hand. Maker's panties, I was so proud.
Oh,
Ah, shit. They're still holding it. Sorry.
What are you doing?
Pulling a barb.
Oh, okay.
a barv?
Tradition in the Lords of Fortune, from one of our old members, Barv. Good guy, but like most of us, his plans went sideways a lot. Bad blood among your crews, not good for morale, but there's not always time for big, drawn-out apologies. So, when one of us screws up and we know we've screwed up, we do a quick 10 to put it right. Pulling a barv.
I'm glad the Lords of Fortune have Tarsh's back.
Oh, Tarsh isn't the first non-binary member of the Lords.
Really?
It was a little before your time, but Horlicks was one of ours. Huh. Bastard looked better than I did in a dress or pants. And out of them, too.
Any reason you can't just apologise?
Sometimes people say, oops, sorry, and hope that fixes it. But they just want to get the whole thing over with. Trust me, I know. But pulling a barv, you sweat a little. Makes you think about it a little more. Shows the other person you mean it.
What if they mean it when they say they're sorry, though?
And that's the other reason. Some people mess up and get all dramatic. They make it about them. Oh, you know, I didn't mean it right. I'd never do that on purpose. They feel so bad about it that it's on everyone else to smooth it over and make them feel better.
Oh, okay, yes, some people might do that.
Pulling a barv puts it on the person who screwed up. They made the mess, they fix it, done.
And to me, it's not really about the subject itself, because I have seen people in my previous video. I talked about the Veilguard a couple of weeks ago before it came out, when there was a lot of talks, how a lot of people were saying that it's not going to be such a great game. And I saw many people in the comment section of that video talking about how I just hate this type of people. I hate these type of people. Oh, you just are calling it woke. Oh, you're just going against the woke mob. It's not that. It's not the topic itself. I have nothing wrong with how people want to identify in real life. I honestly don't care. If you want to identify as a chicken, go ahead. I honestly couldn't care. But it's how it's put in front of people. It's how that message is conveyed. It's how from one person speaks to the other about a certain topic, and it's the way that these characters are communicating with each other that almost seems demoralizing towards the player. It's like they're trying to speak down to you in a way, and it's almost like they're trying to, push something in front of your face. Another great example from the game as well is this whole sit down moment where a Quinari within the game decides to come out to their parents as they them.
Here, vegetables.
Thank you.
So, I'm non-binary.
What does that mean?
It means I don't feel like a man or a woman.
If you are neither a man nor a woman, then what are you?
Non-binary. I just said, and I'm going to use they instead of she from now on.
This is because I have criticized your dress or your manners.
It isn't.
Under the Q, the term for one whose gender does not match the one given to them at birth was a cunithlock. Perhaps you are like that.
Why do you have to keep picking at it? Why can't you just be happy for me?
Evatosh, chakra toebra.
Who I am? Even if I don't feel like I fit, even if I feel wrong?
No, you misunderstood. I will go. Thank you for inviting me to your home.
I'm going to say this as well because this was another big criticism of my last video, and I want to make this very adamant, is that no, I will not be playing the Veilguard. I have no plans to play it. I never had plans to play it, and I will not play it. And a lot of people will say, oh, then you have no right to speak about this game. Or if you're not a massive Dragon Age fan, you have no right to speak about this game, which I'm not. From a base level, I'm like, I appreciate Dragon Age from a distance, especially Dragon Age Origins. I will acknowledge that game as an amazing game. I am not necessarily a Dragon Age fan, but I am a video game fan. I love video games. I love the gaming industry altogether. And I love BioWare. I've played Mass Effect in the past, and KOTOR is one of my favorite games of all time. And if something like this is here, I will go ahead and criticize it. It deserves criticism. Just because I'm not a fan of something doesn't mean I can't criticize something, especially when it's as blatantly bad as this. A lot of the way that this is written, it doesn't feel like it has any real weight behind it. Like, when you watch a clip from a game, when you watch a cutscene, when you watch a dialogue between two players, even if you yourself aren't necessarily playing that game, you should still be able to feel the weight behind someone's words. And when it's a subject like this, it should have some kind of real, like, meaning towards the story for it. To me, if you're going to inject some kind of subject like this, there has to be a reason for it. And when it comes to the Veilguard, a lot of these conversations that I've seen between like two different characters within the game, it just seems meaningless, and it just seems unnecessary for them to go ahead and inject it. It seems like they're just putting this within the game to go ahead and put this in the game. And now to make some great comparisons between old BioWare games and also new games that have certain subjects that talk about this. Now, when it comes to old BioWare games, first we're going to look at a clip from Dragon Age Origins. Literally, its predecessor, and arguably the best game in the series. The reason why Dragon Age is held at such a high pedestal, and the reason why it has such a high reputation, is because Dragon Age Origins.
Who is that? Grey Wardens?
Well, he's not half as dead as he looks, is he?
You sought something in that chest? Something that is here no longer?
Here no longer. You stole them, didn't you? You're some kind of sneaky witch thief.
How very eloquent. How does one steal from dead men?
Quite easily, it seems.
How do you know? I'm not a coward, but this is foolish and reckless. We should go back. I am simply trying to stay alive. You do not see me fleeing, do you?
See the difference between like these two interactions? It feels like the words that are said within this dialogue, it has weight behind them. And one thing that I have disliked from what I've seen from the Veilguard is that in old, like, BioWare games, not just specific to Dragon Age Origins, but also when it came to something like KOTOR as well, is that I always loved how in these games, it didn't just give you like a dialogue option of like, just be nice. In these games, you could be a complete fucking asshole. And I loved that within these games. This is one example from Origins where you can literally call someone a fat cow. Could you imagine saying that within Veilguard? No. Instead of that, it gives you, like, this is an example of one of the 3 dialogue options within Veilguard. It's just more like continuing conversation, but it's instead of like splitting the conversation in like 4 different directions, it's more or less just like splitting it into 3 directions, but they kind of meet at the same point anyways. They kind of don't really affect like the actual relationship that you have with this certain character. I used to love in KOTOR being a complete asshole. It was so fun. I loved being Sith in KOTOR, and just every character you met, I just go up to them and then more or less just be like, fuck you. They'd just be like some nice person. I'd just be like, yeah, I want to kill you now. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, I start a fight with like 6 different people, and I maul them all down with my my lightning. Like that's to me is what made like dialogue options so good, because they helped like when it came to actually furthering the story or impacted your gameplay as well. With these options, you don't. And now to talk about like modern day games that talk about these certain subjects that are being mentioned within the Veilguard, but doing it on such a better level. The greatest example of this to me is Cyberpunk 2077. Cyberpunk 2077, amazing game. I love that game. I love it when 2.0 came out. We have to admit the first before 2.0, before Phantom Liberty, Cyberpunk was a bit of a mess, but since then, it has been one of my favorite games of all time. And the dialogue within this game is so well written. And there is a character in Cyberpunk, Claire. She is actually transgender. And she mentions this in a conversation with you, the player, during her side quest. But the way that she talks about it in the dialogue, it actually has some weight behind it, and it has some meaning of the reason why she is telling you this, and it actually makes her character more interesting. It makes you actually like her more, and it makes you want to do her quests more, and it makes you want to listen to what she has to say.
I mentioned Dean before. My husband, yeah?
Wielder heat, right?
Sweetest man I ever knew. We were friends before my gender transition. We brought daffodils to the hospital. To new beginnings, he said.
Were you married long?
12 years. Dean used to laugh that for our 15th, said he'd finally talked me into my first implant. I was prepping some surprise.
Mind if I ask why you don't sport any chrome?
I love machines, V, I do. But I don't ever want to become one. Is that weird?
A little, I guess, but it's fine.
Dean. Only person who could have convinced me to chrome up. But guess we'll never know if he'd have managed, huh?
Why tell me about Dean? I mean, why now?
He died during a race last year. The final.
So if you don't know, to kind of summarize it up, if you haven't played her quest or you haven't played Cyberpunk, basically her quests are racing quests. And she had a husband who died during these races because like someone killed him. Like it was deemed as an accident, but as a matter of fact, it turns out that the people that were involved in this race actually went out to kill him, and he ended up dying within this race as well. And she just wanted to get revenge. Now, when it comes to her coming out as transgender, it's not of this kind of hey, this is what, I'm this, respect to who I am. No, she puts it into conversation because her talking about her transition has weight behind it, has meaning behind it, because she says about how her husband, they were friends before she transitioned, and he was there for her throughout that entire time. So it talks about the reason of her character is the relationship that she had with her husband. That's her whole entire side quest, and she goes more into the relationship between her husband. So it has impact behind it. So no, it's I hate it because I see so many people on Twitter, and I've seen people in my comments as well when I've talked about subjects like this within video games and also the recent Veilguard, is that people will be like, oh, you just hate this type of people. You just hate to have these conversations. No, it's not that we hate to have these conversations or I hate these type of people. No, I don't at all. As a matter of fact, I have many people within my life that are in this community, that are within the LGBT community, and I love them. I have family members, I have friends, and I 100% accept people like that and every right to you. But at the same time, like, if you're going to talk about something, you don't shove it in someone's face. It has to be meaning for the reason why you're telling someone something. And that's the thing when it comes to Veilguard, when it comes to a lot of these, touchy subjects, the way they're going about it, to me, is terrible. And then even just generic conversation within this game as well. Obviously, when it comes to this whole non-binary thing, that's the massive part of what's being talked about in this game and the way that the non-binary parts are being injected into this game as well. But there's even other dialogue in this game, and I'm not going to go show you every single little bit of footage that I've pulled up, because I pulled up a lot of clips, but I don't want to show every single one of them, because then this video will go on for a lot longer than I initially want it to. But even then, a lot of the dialogue is written, like, to give you an example, it's like a massive boulder will fall off, like, right next to a player, and it'll be like, well, that just happened, and then you expect to hear a laugh track go off in the background. Or, someone will be shot, and it's just like, they'll be like, I don't think I'm gonna make it. Or it's just like, oh, well, that's gonna leave a scar. It's like, what kind of fucking shitty, terrible humor is this? And the way that words are being projected to the player as well. Like I said earlier in the video, it's like it's being talked down to. It's like every single word that they say, it's more or less they're just trying to blatantly say something and just give information to the player in no meaningful, impactful way. That's what it is. The dialogue in this game has no impact, no meaning, and it's more or less just injected into the game and is not immersive whatsoever. But yeah, I would definitely like to hear what you guys have to think about all this down below. Have you played the Veilguard? Are you planning on playing it? What is your thoughts so far on, like, the combat, the overall arcing story? Because I heard that the overarching story itself is actually not too bad. It's more just the dialogue within this game that is extremely terrible. But yeah, what do you think about everything within this game? Are you planning to play it? Have you played it? Are you going to avoid this game? But yeah, that's going to be it from me, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Peace out.